Hey, welcome back. We are back in the shop today with Don Bristow, and he's going to show us the process of transforming raw lumber into something we can use to make our woodworking projects. Fine woodworking begins with a profound respect for the wood and an understanding of its unique characteristics.
Any lumber, whether it's rough sawed or finish sawed, are going to have imperfections. This is probably an extreme example, but wood cups, or it bows, or it twists. And so you've got to have some process to take those out of it. So we start with a joiner, and you've got to get one surface flat.
Try to find the least warped side.
Well, I start with the cup down, clearing out the back outside edges.
Okay. What's your average as far as how much you're taking off at a time in the joiner and the planer?
Well, it depends on what you're doing. Since we're starting with pretty rough and had quite a bit, then you increase that considerably. If you're cleaning up something, I might take maybe a 64th.
That's fine. We'll talk about that in a second. So you're running a helical head cutter on your joiner and planer?
Yeah, wonderful tool.
Like them better than a
Oh,
bow?
it's daylight and dark.
And those rotate, so as one gets dull, you just rotate them.
One is carbide, so it's going to last longer to start with, and then there's 4 sides to it, so
okay.
Those just come out, turn, and go right back in. Once you've got 2 sides parallel,
Right.
now you need to make one surface perpendicular. So you go back to the joiner. Now you've got a perfectly straight edge, which is perpendicular to the surface, and the 2 surfaces are parallel. So now the only thing you have to do is cut the board to width. So put it in the table saw. So now you went from this to 2 surfaces parallel, 2 straight perpendicular edges. Now you got a board you can start working with.
A lot of process to get it milled down.
A lot of processes. Now you can begin to plan your project with a quality board. I was going to say, you know, when the board exits the planer, that last couple inches, the board can waver just a little unless you're putting outside pressure on the other end, and it'll show up where the board gets sniped.
Okay, just a little dip in the...
Just a little dip. And so you can either try and sand that out, cut that off. In this case, you've already got a split in this end, and this end's going to have to be squared up anyway, so you can probably cut that snipe right off of it.
Gotcha. Resawing on a bandsaw lets you split the wood into multiple pieces, making the right thickness and giving you multiple pieces of wood that match for your projects.
Not bad.
No. I see a little bit of marking here.
Yep. See some here, and there's some unevenness in there. So I'll probably clean that up on the jointer, because you can use a much shorter piece of wood on the jointer than you can the planer.
Right.
Or just sand it.
Put your stuff together, then is it all glued? Do you use nails and air?
95% of it's glue.
Glue.
And with today's glues, you know, there's all kinds of jointing methods and reinforcing of joint methods. With today's glue, you know, put some glue on it, stick it together, and it's there. You know,
so even if you have a pin nail, all it's doing is clamping the boards till the glue dries?
Till the glue dries anyway. So yeah, if you can clamp it together until that glue sets. Today's glues are amazing. I use a lot of miter joints, and you know, people talk about how weak miter joints are. Well, they are compared to some other joints, but for the size of projects I make, you know, it doesn't take much to hold that joint together.
Gotcha.
If you got much of a glue surface at all, it's
A
gonna
lot of wood you use, do you end up applying a lot of stain, or is it mainly just natural finishes and clears? And
mostly clear finishes. Occasionally, you know, I'll use an oak, and I either want to bring out the grain a little more, or I just want a darker color oak,
okay.
and so I'll stain. You know, this.
Yeah.
You don't want to cover that up.
No.
So
let the wood speak for
you
itself.
know, and that's what I really look for. Is I like the looks of wood. I let the wood tell me, you know, what I ought to make out of it.
That's
and,
cool.
So yeah, you get something like that, and see, that'll finish that box out.
Yeah.
Really well.
If somebody was going to break into woodworking because they saw it and they think it was cool, what would be your advice for somebody starting new to get into woodworking?
Well, depends on what they, you know, a lot of people just do carving, and you can do carving with a limited number of tools, or turning, and you can do turning with limited space and limited tools. So it depends on how far you want to go. And if you're trying to build furniture, high-end furniture, now you need lots of tools and lots of space. So it depends on what you're trying to do.
Okay.
And join a wood club. We've got a great wood club here in Columbia, and you know, get acquainted with other guys. And that group is wide range from beginners that are just starting. You know, they recently retired or they just want a new hobby, and then others that are amazing woodworkers.
Wow.
And that's the other thing I encourage anybody: buy the best tool you can for what you can afford. You'll never be sorry to spend that little extra.
What's one thing you feel like has changed the most since you started woodworking? Whether it's techniques or tools or...
Well, I don't know if they've changed as much as I've changed. Like the helix head, I didn't have that kind of, well, I didn't even have a joiner starting out. You know, and the first joiner I had was, you know, just a flat blade and about a 6-inch. Now that's 8-inch with a helix head. And so, the quality of tools are out there if you can afford them. So, and going from one saw to now a dedicated resaw,
Right.
bandsaw. The table saw the table saw and the router probably does the lion's share of the work for the things I do. As I said, that first box I made, I did all that on a table saw. So it's possible.
Sure.
You have more flexibility with the more tools that you've got, but I use router table a lot. Quality blades make a huge difference. And the same way with router bits. Buy the best you can afford and you'll never be sorry. And, a lot of these things I've upgraded from what I had originally.
Sure. Thanks, Don, for sharing your expertise and experience with us. Your passion for your craft truly shines through. Hey, until next time, go make something cool in your shop.